Hey everyone, welcome back. This topic is probably not going to pertain to a lot of people, but for the people that it does pertain to, I sure hope that you find some help from this. So, some of us may experience in our lives being a caregiver to someone else, which is really difficult to do in general. And it seems as though a lot of clients that I'm working with, and even myself as well, we've been put in these weird positions where we've become somebody else's caregiver that we didn't anticipate ever being. So, the theme that people tend to bring up in therapy, and what I also experienced taking care of both of my parents who had cancer at the same time and died 8 months apart from each other a few years ago, was that of being their caregiver, but also feeling guilty. So I always felt guilty all the time that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. I should be seeing this one and not the other. What can I do to help? I hate that I'm mad at the world. Why am I irritated about everything? Why am I so exhausted? It's a constant cycle. And a lot of clients talk about that guilt, and they don't really get into depth about what they're thinking about in their head because they think that it's really weird and unique to them when they say, I just kind of wish that they would die because they're so miserable, and we're all just kind of waiting around, and I can't believe I'm thinking about that thing. All of us think that. We don't think that when someone gets diagnosed right away. We don't think, oh, I hope that person dies. We think that later. We think that when they're a couple weeks out from dying, a couple months away from dying, they're on hospice, they're not doing well. It's usually when they start downward spiraling that we start thinking that, and we don't ever share that with anyone. We wonder if we're doing enough. And one of the things I like to talk to people about in this position is making sure that if there's something that your loved one would really like to do, maybe it would make their life complete if you took them to a baseball game. If they're ambulatory and they can make it, take them. Even if it's inconvenient and you have to reschedule something you were going to do, take them. Because you don't want to worry about that later. You don't want to think, oh, if only I would have done that, or I knew she wanted to go to this one movie, or he really wanted to go to this restaurant. Make sure you do those things so that there's no intense guilt later that you didn't get to do them. Additionally, we're going to feel exhausted a lot. Your brain is constantly going. You're thinking of ways to try and keep your person happy and healthy and alive. It's way different than raising children. I don't have children of my own, but enough people that I've worked with have had kids, and they say it's different. It's really different when you're raising children. You're hoping that they're going to be alive and well, and what you're doing is actually going to help promote wellness and health. But when you're the caregiver of somebody who's, definitely not getting better, what we're doing is kind of staving off death. We're trying really hard to help them feel better and comfort them. They're not going to be living a long, vivacious life. So everything we do isn't necessarily making them healthier. It could be making them more comfortable. So that's exhausting, right? If you're thinking about that all day long and how you're going to live without that person, we're going to be tired. We're in fight or flight a lot. The other thing is we start losing the relationship that we had with that person. So if it's your mother or your father or a child or your best friend, you used to have a relationship with them. You used to tell them certain things. You would expect to hear certain things from them. But there comes a time when they no longer have those responses for us. So we really start grieving the loss of that person well before they die. And we start shifting the amount of information that we share with them because we do not want to stress them out. So if it's a parent that is that's dying, you might have had a really wonderful communication with them. They may have been the person you always called for everything, and now you're going through something and you can't really share it with that person. That's a huge loss. It's a huge loss. And then when they finally do pass away, it's really difficult. It's the physical loss, the mental loss, everything. We have to find new people that will fill those gaps, but not quite as well as that one person did. There's a lot of mental health that goes into caregiving for someone. I definitely understand what that looks like and all of the really horrendous thoughts that can go through our minds as we're caring for someone, all the sad thoughts, all the lonely thoughts. Where do I cry? How do I cry? I want to remain strong. What do I say when someone asks, how's your sister? How's your brother doing? How's your mom? Those people that are not well, maybe they're on hospice and someone keeps asking, hey, how's John? How's Bob? And you're like, what? He's on hospice care. So we get really anxious and upset sometimes with when people are, checking in, but people just want to ask, they want to check in. So a couple things that can be helpful is knowing that people are going to ask how that loved one is, and you can come up with a response that seems genuine. If it's your mother who is on hospice care and not doing well, and they ask, how's Jane doing? How's your mom doing? And you can say, each day is, it's difficult, but we're doing the best that we can to make sure that she is comfortable. There's no follow-up that can come out of that. And then you turn it around and say, how are you doing? I heard you were blah, 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 or doing something else. It takes a lot of effort and energy to turn that around, but instead of answering those questions, you can put it back on that person. And people, I've been there too, when someone's dying or not doing well, we always ask, how are they? What can I do to help? People will ask you, what can I do to help? And that's kind of annoying when you're the caregiver. You don't want to have to come up with a list of plans and things and an agenda for someone else that's trying to be good to you and help you because of their own desire to reach out, or maybe it's their own guilt. But you can say in return, you know what, I'm thinking about so many things, I'm not really sure. Anything that you come up with would probably be wonderful. And then that's the end of it. You don't have to give them a lengthy list of things that they can do unless you have things like mow my yard, mow the lawn. I could definitely use some help with doing my taxes, or, I need a ride to such and such place. Be honest, but also have quick responses in return. I spent a lot of my time thinking of how I would respond to certain people when they asked, and it would make me mad. I just wanted people to never ask me any questions while I was taking care of my parents. It was too much. It was too much. So I know the wide variety of those thoughts, feelings, emotions that we can go through, and all I can tell you, because you're watching this for a reason, you're not just watching it because it's a video that popped up. It's a very specific video. The only thing I can say to you is that you must do everything possible to make sure that later on down the road, you don't regret anything. So think about what those things are, those things that you can say to that person, the experiences you can have, go through old photos, whatever it is that would make that person, feel good. Also know that all of your emotions are completely normal. There's not a single emotion that you're going to go through that's completely just isolated to you. I know that you're a special case, you have special circumstances, but none of those emotions or thoughts are haven't been heard before or been done before. I remember when my mom was in a coma for a week and a half and she had days to live. I remember thinking, if she doesn't die tomorrow, I'm going to put a pillow over her head and suffocate her, or I'm going to give too much morphine. I'm going to do something because I need to end that suffering for her. Fortunately, she died the next day, and I always wonder, would I have followed through with that? That's kind of a scary thing to think, but when you're desperate and you see how much that person's hurting, you want to do anything you can for them. It does not make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a bad person that you don't want to take care of that person that's ill, especially if you are not a caregiver by nature. People that are caregivers that go to people's homes and deliver food or sit by their bedside or do, home services, they're being paid to do that, and they kind of enjoy doing that thing. Unless you also do that as a side gig, my guess is that this is not okay with you. This is miserable. It's frustrating. It takes time out of your family, out of your lifestyle, out of your hobbies, your self-care, and you're devoting all of that energy, everything to that person. It feels like we're really crappy people, that we feel selfish, but we're not. We're giving up as much as we can to that person. So know that everything you're thinking and feeling is super normal for caregivers. And absolutely, if you want to hear more about this, I'd love to support you in that journey. You can reach me at the email listed in this video. You can visit my website. All that's available on this platform. So hopefully that helps you get a little bit of peace. And there's wonderful books out there too on how to deal with grief and people who are dying and being the caregiver of those people. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. Take care.